The library was the one place at Northwood High where Liam felt he could breathe. It was a hushed, orderly world where the unspoken rule was mutual invisibility. You are you, I am I, and the space between was a sanctuary for his thoughts to wander without consequence. He didn't actually enjoy reading. Poetry conjured vast, transparent swaths of blue. Novels reminded him of the new cappuccino at the corner cafe, specifically the thick layer of foam that sat on top. Art books were the strangest. Color itself became meaningless, replaced by the distinct sensation of his body being submerged in ice-cold water, a feeling so real it sometimes made him shiver. His mind was a constant wanderer, so books were a lost cause. He had synesthesia. The world reached him as a muddled, indistinct landscape where the borders between sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste had long since eroded. He could crash through them at will, and every morning was a lottery, a new and unpredictable sensory minefield. One side of the library's second floor was a massive pane of glass overlooking the campus quad and its meticulously manicured lawn. It was spring, and the gentle wind had coaxed new leaves from the dormant branches, creating a hazy, dreamlike screen of green. That spot was often bathed in sunlight, but Liam preferred the shadows nearby, a dim corner where he could avoid all eyes, whether intentional or not. He was the weird kid, and he had made his peace with it. Lately, however, the library had offered a new diversion. Peeking cautiously over the top of a book he used as a blind, he would let his gaze drift and settle on Ethan. Ethan loved sitting by the window, especially when the sun was bright. Liam couldn't explain the fascination. Perhaps it was because looking at Ethan made the tip of his tongue taste of buttercream frosting. It was sweet, yet the texture was a cloying, cool stickiness. Sometimes the sensation became so overwhelming, he would abruptly stand up and rush to the library restroom, scrubbing his hands over and over to wash away the phantom slickness of frosting. At first, he hadn't even known the boy's name. Half a semester had passed, and Liam had spoken to no one in his classes. Friends were an alien concept. He recognized only a handful of classmates, the ones who collected homework assignments. Even they were unremarkable sensory inputs. The jarring honk of car horns, the flavorless taste of plain water, a drab and uninspired charcoal gray. That day in the library, he was browsing the shelves for a book to stare at, like a diner perusing a menu. He settled on a collection of essays. The feel of the pages as he flipped through them tasted like last night's dinner, a rich tomato bisque, which was pleasant enough. He tapped his index finger on the spine, paused, then pulled the volume from its place. It was a thick book, and its absence left a gap on the shelf. Through that gap, he could see the other side of the aisle, where another perfectly aligned gap revealed a person. The boy was tall, so all Liam could see was the sharp, clean line of a jaw. Liam froze. The person bent down slightly, saw him through the slit in the bookshelf, and offered a polite smile. In that instant, Liam's synesthesia flared. He felt a gentle, curious squeeze around his heart, and then he tasted it, the fresh yet sticky flavor of buttercream. He shivered involuntarily. The next day in class, Liam's pen rolled off his desk. As he turned to pick it up, he saw him. The person from the library was sitting right behind him. He'd never once bothered to look back. He heard someone call his name, Ethan. So that was him, Ethan. Even a recluse like Liam had heard of Ethan. He was the student body representative, a model of academic excellence and gentlemanly conduct. He came from a modest background but was relentlessly positive, a living embodiment of the archetype that teachers and classmates adored. Who could possibly dislike Ethan? Only Liam, who felt nothing for the boy himself, but was obsessed with the buttercream. He tried to find a similar flavor at the corner cafe. He was a regular there, and the barista knew to just let him point at the pastries in the gleaming glass case. He sampled several, but none of them matched. It was frustrating. That evening, he was home alone. His parents had taken his sister to a symphony. They never took him. It was normal. The most beautiful music would only transform inside his head, becoming blurry shapes of color or distinct, unwanted tastes. His sister always said his brain was broken, that he was crazy. Not crazy, he would think, his face a placid mask. Synesthesia. But he never said it aloud. An inexplicable restlessness took hold of him. It was as if he was developing an addiction to Ethan's buttercream flavor, a craving to taste it again. He padded barefoot across the hardwood floors, his skin so pale that the blue of his veins was visible beneath the surface. He felt like he was walking on cotton, each step soft and unsubstantial. He roamed the empty house, searching for something he couldn't name and couldn't find. Annoyed, he gave up and sat on the edge of his bed, smacking his lips, trying to taste the air itself. He fell back onto the bed in frustration, sprawling out and staring at the ceiling. He let his brow furrow as he forced himself to recall Ethan's face. His hair was just the right length. It would fly up at the ends when he played basketball, and beads of sweat would trace paths down his neck. The thought was vaguely unsettling. Liam scratched at his own neck irritably. Ethan's fingers were long and strong. Sometimes the teacher would call him to the board to solve a problem. His shoulders were so broad. The chalk letters he wrote were tinged with color: lemon yellow, grass green, ocean blue. Liam rolled over, burrowing into his covers and burying his face in his pillow. And then there was that afternoon just before the final bell. Ethan's pen had fallen on the floor. Liam had scrambled to pick it up, not caring that he got dark blue ink on his hand. Ethan had taken the pen and had told him thank you. Then, Ethan had noticed the ink spot. He had reached out and gently wiped it away with his thumb, saying he was sorry for making a mess. The dry touch of skin on skin had morphed in Liam's haywire brain into the slick, greasy feeling of catching a dollop of buttercream barehanded. He had jerked his hand back instinctively. But now, alone in the silent house, Liam closed his eyes, as if that could hide what he was doing from himself. He parted his lips slightly, extended his tongue, and touched the tip to the spot on his finger where the ink had been. He tasted sweetness. He was zoning out in class, which was no surprise. The fact that Ethan was sitting directly behind him was both a secret thrill and a source of profound unease. He had the sudden urge to stand up, run to the restroom, and stare into the mirror to see what the back of his own head and shoulders looked like, because that was Ethan's view all day long. It was math class, his least favorite. He'd rather drown in the hallucinations of his synesthesia than try to decipher the logic connecting Arabic numerals and mathematical symbols. Liam. The math teacher's voice was hard and unforgiving, like lying on a wooden plank covered with a bamboo mat. It was uncomfortable. You answer this one. What's the solution? Liam stood up shakily, staring at the problem on the whiteboard. It wasn't particularly difficult, but a wave of panic and confusion made it impossible. His mind filled with meaningless blocks of color. He stammered, unable to speak. The whispers of his classmates tasted of bitter almonds, making him grimace. Seeing he couldn't answer, the teacher's tone grew impatient. He tapped the board for emphasis. Look here. What does this make you think of? What do you see? His mind was a chaotic swirl. He blurted out an apple. His ridiculous answer was met with a ripple of laughter. The teacher sighed in exasperation and told him to sit down. No one knew that he had, in fact, thought of an apple, the crisp crunch of the first bite, the burst of sweet juice on his tongue. Normally, he would have sat down without a second thought and resumed his daydreaming. But today, the familiar misunderstanding and ridicule felt unusually sharp. He couldn't help but wonder what Ethan was thinking. "Ethan, you answer." The sound of a chair shifting came from behind him. Ethan was brilliant. He could solve a problem like this in his sleep. Did he think Liam was stupid? Or just an attention-seeking clown? Or did he think there was something fundamentally wrong with him? The answer is A. Ethan's voice was placid, betraying no pride or mockery. Liam couldn't read any emotion in it at all. He only heard buttercream. He desperately wanted some. "Liam." "Ethan." "My office." A jolt of anxiety shot through Liam. He followed the math teacher into the office with Ethan trailing behind him, his footsteps steady and unhurried. They stood side by side in front of the teacher's desk. Liam thought for a moment, then shifted subtly to the side. From the corner of his eye, he saw Ethan glance down at him. The teacher's voice was that hard, bamboo mat bed again, making Liam toss and turn internally. "Liam, your grades." Liam began to drift, wondering why Ethan had been called in with him. He was standing in the office in front of his teacher, next to the object of his fixation, and he couldn't stop thinking about what he had done alone in his bed last night. "Your grades in other subjects are fine. But math, what was the point of math anyway?" No formula could accurately calculate the fleeting joy he'd experienced last night. He had been curled on his side in bed, the lights off, swallowed by the safety of darkness. The tip of his tongue had touched his own hand, right on the spot Ethan had touched, where the imaginary buttercream lingered. He could gently curl his tongue, drawing the flavor into his mouth, savoring the sweetness. If you keep this up, the SATs, there wasn't a single class in this entire school that taught you how to find your own happiness. Yet somehow, in that, he was self-taught. He had propped his index and middle fingers up, like a little person's legs, and walked them down his own chest. He took a deep breath, hooked the elastic waistband of his pajama pants, and slipped his hand inside. The teacher didn't know. His classmates didn't know. No one knew about the soft sighs of pleasure he had uttered last night. He had fumbled, urgent and clumsy. In a haze, he felt as though he were grasping a handful of buttercream, at first cool and sticky, then slowly melting from his body heat, releasing a sweet fragrance. The melted cream glued his fingers together. He couldn't move. He needed Ethan. Ethan was so good, maybe he would be willing to help him. Ethan's hands were large and warm. They could envelop him, knead him. He had been thrown into the air by an invisible pair of hands, so high that the air grew thin and he couldn't breathe. Then he was falling, the wind whistling through his fingers. He had climaxed. Liam snapped back from his memory, the tips of his ears burning red. It didn't matter. The teacher would assume it was shame and remorse. In reality, he was just lost in a fantasy. He had no idea what the teacher had just said. He only knew that Ethan had been silent. "Liam?" the teacher asked, annoyed. "Were you listening?" Liam nodded vaguely. Yes." The teacher let out a frustrated sigh. "Starting tomorrow, Ethan is moving next to you. A student like him can help you study. You need to appreciate this opportunity. Understand?" "What? No way." Liam was caught in the dizzying stupor of someone who had just won the lottery. It felt so unreal he couldn't quite believe it. The teacher pressed, "What? You don't agree?" Liam shook his head quickly. No, I agree." He heard Ethan let out a short, simple laugh beside him. It wasn't mocking or sarcastic, just a laugh. Liam didn't dare look up, keeping his eyes fixed on the toes of his shoes. Ethan turned toward him and held out a hand, suggesting they should get along well. Liam nervously wiped his hand on his uniform pants. Ethan's hand was extended right in front of him, just as he had observed and imagined it to be. Large, capable of holding a basketball with one hand, knuckles well defined. People said he played guitar. There were calluses on his fingertips, and his nails were neatly trimmed. The teacher cleared his throat twice. Just as Ethan was about to withdraw his hand, Liam snapped to his senses and reached out. Ethan had offered his right hand, but Liam extended his left. It was awkward. Ethan laughed again, then flipped his hand over to grasp Liam's, shaking it gently up and down. His left hand was being held, the same hand he'd fixated on the night before. Liam's previous deskmate was a girl whose name he couldn't recall. Ethan, ever the gentleman, helped her move her things to the desk behind Liam, his old spot. The rest of the class was baffled. No one understood why a trip to the teacher's office had resulted in Ethan being moved next to the weird kid. What was most infuriating was that the weird kid, Liam, showed no signs of being ecstatic, overjoyed, or even remotely grateful. He just sat there, face blank, head down, lost in who knew what. Only Liam knew he was thinking about nothing at all. His hands were hidden in his desk, repeatedly picking at a hangnail. His hearing felt sharper than ever. He heard the girl who was now behind him thank Ethan shyly. He heard Ethan sit down next to him, bending over to organize his desk. Ethan was tall with broad shoulders, and his movements stirred a faint breeze that brushed against Liam's arm. He could hear the other students murmuring, and he could guess what they were saying. A perverse sense of pleasure bloomed in Liam's chest. Mine. He sat next to me, so he's mine now. None of you can have him. It was a possessive claim that no one but him would ever know. Clatter, Ethan's ruler fell to the floor between them. Liam flinched, hastily moving himself and his chair away with a grating screech. Only after Ethan had bent down and picked up the ruler did Liam slowly inch his chair back, his expression impassive, his head still bowed. The teacher's intention might have been for Ethan to inspire Liam academically, but it only made Liam's daydreaming worse. Any slight movement from Ethan drew his attention. He would watch him from the corner of his eye, head down. Ethan wore a pair of unbranded sneakers. When he sat, his pant leg would hike up slightly, revealing an ankle of wheat-colored skin. It looked firm and dry. Just by looking, Liam could imagine the warmth of their skin touching. Liam, it was math class again, and he was being called on again. Liam scrambled to his feet, hands braced on the desk. The problem on the board was even more incomprehensible than last time. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Panic set in again, his palms growing damp. This problem. The answer, his mind was a total blank. Suddenly, a dry, warm hand grasped his own, which was nervously pinching the seam of his pants. Liam gasped. It was Ethan. He didn't even need to look. Ethan let go, then slid his index finger between Liam's hand and his pants, hooking it to draw a slow, light circle on his palm. It was ticklish, like an April breeze or a serpent's curious tongue, a fleeting touch that was gone as soon as it registered. Liam clenched his fist, as if to trap the feeling inside. His throat was dry, making it hard to speak. It's 0. The answer is 0. X equals 0. The teacher swallowed the scolding he had been preparing and nodded. Sit down. Finally, some progress. Keep learning from Ethan. As Liam sat, he glanced at Ethan, who was leaning slightly to the side, propping his head up with his hand. The same hand that had just mercifully saved Liam was now casually spinning a ballpoint pen. He looked utterly unconcerned. Noticing Liam's gaze, Ethan gave him a quick wink and a faint smile. Liam's face flushed, and he could only stammer, unable to form a coherent word. The moment the final bell rang, Liam practically flew down 3 flights of stairs before slowing to a breathless walk on his way to the library. He grabbed a book of poetry for cover and retreated to the deepest corner of the building, sitting cross-legged against the wall. The vast glass windows framed a view of fresh green leaves and tender pink blossoms. No one was around. The towering, overlapping bookshelves felt like a mountain range, giving Liam a sense of security. He could finally let his mind wander in peace. He thought about everything and nothing. The itch in his palm grew more intense. He scratched and scratched, but it only made it worse, maddeningly so. Ethan was an enticing buttercream cake, but he was also a terrifying beast. Liam idly flipped through the book in his lap, page after page. The soft rustle of paper created the illusion of lying on a thick, soft mattress, so comfortable he felt himself drifting off. "Hey!" Liam shot up from the floor, his eyes wide, staring at Ethan, who was standing before him, one hand braced on a bookshelf. He felt a surge of annoyance. Ethan was like water, seeping into every crack. Ethan checked his watch, then lowered his voice, asking politely why he had run off so quickly. He had been planning to help him with some math problems. "No, you don't have to. I can do them." Liam's voice grew smaller as he spoke, his confidence waning. He tried to slip past Ethan and escape the cramped corner, but Ethan's tall frame filled the narrow space between the shelves completely. Liam retreated, his back pressing against the cold glass of the window. So quiet here. Ethan sat down on the floor as if he owned the place, blocking Liam's exit. He pulled out a workbook and began reading to himself. Liam looked left and right, trapped. Seeing him still standing, Ethan looked up, propped his chin on his hand, and asked if he hated him. He furrowed his brow just enough to look tragically wounded. "No." Liam quickly sat down, feeling pathetic. "Good." Ethan smiled, his eyes crinkling slightly. Then he went back to his workbook, silent once more. Liam clung to his only lifeline, the book of poetry. He pretended to be engrossed, though not a single word registered. Every time Ethan turned a page, the itch in Liam's palm flared up, and his whole body felt out of sorts. Ethan's legs were long, and sitting cross-legged for so long became uncomfortable. He stretched them out, crossing the invisible boundary and invading Liam's personal space. Liam stared at his outstretched foot, at his faded sneakers. He studied the laces, which were tied and then tucked inside the shoe, leaving no bow exposed. It was a neat look. "What are you looking at?" "At you." The words almost escaped his lips. Liam flinched and pulled his gaze back, feigning composure. "The book." "What book?" "I always see you with a book." Before Liam could react, Ethan set his workbook on the floor and leaned in, getting closer and closer, reading the text in Liam's book upside down. The afternoon sun glinted in his hair, and the green from the trees outside cast shadows on his white shirt. Liam smelled spring, buttercream, rain-soaked grass, wind, and flowers. Ethan read for a moment, then rubbed his nose and chuckled softly. He remarked that he didn't realize Liam liked this sort of thing. Liam had no idea what he was even reading. He followed Ethan's gaze down to the poetry collection. A few sparse lines were arranged on the large page. The imagery and emotion leaped directly into his mind. The itch in his palm solidified, becoming a bothersome little snake that coiled around his fingers, slithered over his wrist, and burrowed under his skin. His heart began to pound like a roll of spring thunder. With a trembling hand, Liam tried to close the book, but Ethan decisively pressed his open palm down on the pages, reading aloud in a low voice. It was I who took the peaches and apples from your chest, the lilac and lily of your abdomen. The stamen trembles from the wind. You are not fruit, nor do you represent all things. Liam felt like he was on fire. A tingling numbness spread from the base of his spine. From his angle, he could see the curve of Ethan's brow, the high bridge of his nose. By the end, Ethan's voice had dropped to a murmur. You are my lesson in common sense, my personal botany. Liam had never paid much attention to Ethan's voice before, only noting that it was clear and pleasant. Now he discovered that when he lowered it, it became deep and husky, the resonance from his chest vibrating directly through Liam. He reached up distractedly and touched his ear, finding it alarmingly hot. Ethan's palm was still pressing the book onto Liam's lap, as if he intended to keep reading. Liam felt like he was about to explode. He pushed himself off the floor and shot to his feet. Ethan's hand fell into empty space, and the book of poetry dropped to the ground, its fall echoing in the silent corner of the library. Like a clumsy long-distance runner, Liam stood with his back against the window, panting, staring at Ethan with wide eyes. Ethan picked up the book, brushed off imaginary dust, and flipped through a few pages. He looked up at Liam, a mischievous glint in his eyes, and silently mouthed one word, "Wow." Liam fled. He scrambled past Ethan and bolted out of the library as if a dog were chasing him. Spring had arrived in full force. Some of the eager cherry blossoms were already blooming on the branches, a tender, delicate pink. Liam had no mind for the scenery as he hurried home. When Ethan was far away, like a statue in a museum or a painting on a wall, Liam could admire and fantasize freely. But when Ethan got close, his courage failed him. The cake shop at the corner was Liam's favorite place besides the library. The glass case was filled with an array of dazzling pastries. Just looking at them was enough to conjure a sweet taste on his tongue. He pointed to a red velvet cake topped with a cherry. The server got it for him and he sat by the window. He carefully picked up the plump, juicy cherry by its stem and placed it on the edge of the white porcelain plate, saving it for last. The red velvet was sweet but not cloying, with a thin layer of buttercream frosting. The dessert did a good job of calming Liam's agitated heart. But when his thoughts inevitably drifted back to Ethan, the light frosting in his mouth became intensely sweet and thick, so sticky it felt like it was gluing his mouth shut. The buttercream coated his tongue with a strange texture. Liam didn't know what he was thinking, but his face grew redder as he ate. Finally, he sighed and finished the cake in a few quick bites. Before leaving, he hesitated, then had another one packed to go. He had eaten too quickly and was still full when he got home. His mother was in the kitchen preparing dinner, his father was reading the newspaper on the sofa, and his sister was flipping through channels with the remote. No one noticed him come in, or if they did, they didn't care. Liam's quiet, "I'm home," went unanswered. He was used to it. He changed into his slippers and carried the cake upstairs to his room. Only after closing his bedroom door did Liam truly feel he could relax. He took out his homework and spread it on his desk. After 5 minutes of genuine effort, he gave up. He hadn't paid any attention in class today. Nothing made sense. He pushed the work aside and took out his phone, looking up the book of poetry he had seen earlier. The poet's words were subtle, but as Liam read, his phone began to feel hot in his hand. Ethan's voice reading the poem echoed in his ears, and the empty room suddenly felt claustrophobic. He placed his phone face down on the desk, lowered his head, and buried it in his arms. He was aroused. The shame of it made him dismiss the idea of relieving himself. He would just have to wait for it to subside. When he finally calmed down, Liam let out a long breath. He went to open his door, intending to tell his parents he wasn't hungry and wouldn't be eating dinner. From the top of the stairs, he could see his family of 3 already seated at the dining table, enjoying a cheerful meal together. He suddenly felt like an intruder. He closed his door again, tossed the now room temperature cake into the trash can, and quickly got ready for bed. He turned off the lights and curled up under the covers to sleep. The next day at school, his homework was, naturally, blank. Liam didn't give it a second thought. Luckily, he had arrived early. He slumped over his desk and went through the assignment, filling in what he could and guessing at what he couldn't. The final, long-form math problem was beyond him. He wrote down the first step and then stared at it, stumped. If it were any other subject, he would have left it, but this was math. If he couldn't do it, the teacher might move Ethan away from him. Ethan looked like he'd been up all night. He collapsed onto his desk as soon as he got to class. If he went and asked him, Ethan would probably help. Liam cast a nervous glance his way. Ethan's face was buried in his arms, revealing only the back of his head and the soft whirl of his hair. He stirred slightly, and Liam quickly looked away, starting to chew on the end of his pen. The smooth plastic poked at his chin and lips, the metal tip leaving a small wet mark. The large blank space on his assignment left a bitter taste in his mouth. "Liam, are you done yet? We need to turn in the homework." Liam flinched, his hand tightening and wrinkling the paper. He looked to his last hope, Ethan. Ethan was awake, his half-lidded eyes peering at him through the gap between his hair and his arm. He might have been watching for a while. His voice was husky with sleep. "Can't do it?" Liam hesitated. "Yeah, I'll teach you." Liam had been waiting for those words. He dared to look over again and saw Ethan blinking slowly, looking exhausted, as if he might fall back asleep at any moment. "Liam, are you done or not?" The student collecting homework was getting more annoyed, his voice rising. Liam felt a wave of dizziness from the anxiety. The blank space on the page became a hard lump in his throat. Liam, his own voice was barely a whisper. "Teach me." "Hold on," Ethan sat up, his voice clearer. "He'll turn it in later." The previously irritable class representative became a shy lamb in front of Ethan, nodding eagerly. Ethan took Liam's paper, pulled out a sheet of scratch paper, grabbed a pen, and began to explain the problem. Liam's tension eased for a moment, only to return full force. His gaze wandered down to Ethan's shoes. His laces were tied the same way as yesterday. And his knuckles, they were especially sharp when he held the pen. If only they could have shaken hands in the library yesterday. Tap, tap. Ethan rapped his knuckles on the desk and frowned, looking a little angry. He was intimidating when he was angry. "Pay attention." Liam nodded like a pecking chicken and forced himself to focus. Ethan was a good student and an even better teacher. He explained things clearly and patiently. The math problem that had seemed like a behemoth to Liam was a tame pet in Ethan's hands. Half understanding, Liam followed Ethan's steps and completed the assignment. Ethan took his homework and, reaching across Liam, handed it to the representative waiting behind them. His arm brushed against Liam's ear, and the tip of his nose grazed the front of Ethan's white shirt. It smelled sweet. Ethan settled back into his seat, turning to look at him. He asked in a low voice if he was a good kisser. Liam was still stunned, his brain overloaded. Ethan's gaze shifted to his pen, then back to his mouth. He had heard that people with nimble tongues could tie a cherry stem into a knot. Thanks to Ethan, Liam's math homework showed a dramatic improvement. In math class, for the first time in his life, he received praise from the teacher. The man's voice, usually as cold and hard as a bare mattress, sounded much more comfortable today. Liam rarely heard praise from anyone. He was used to blame and doubt, and then not even that, just indifference and neglect. After class, the girl sitting behind him hesitantly approached Liam's desk to ask Ethan for help. There were a few problems she didn't understand, and she asked if Ethan could explain them to her. After speaking, she stared pointedly at Liam. Even someone as dense as Liam knew what she meant. "Get out of the way." Liam pretended not to notice, burying his head in his own homework, flipping the pages back and forth with a rustle, but he didn't budge. "Ethan, let Liam explain it to you," Ethan interrupted her. "He knows how. He got it right." The girl was reluctant, and Liam was even more so. He shot a glance at Ethan from the corner of his eye. Ethan tapped his finger on the problem in question. His tone was firm. "This problem. I want to hear how you explain it." Liam was a little afraid of him. Ethan's features were strong and defined. When he smiled and his eyes crinkled, he was approachable. But when his face was blank, he seemed cold and distant, impossible to read. And when he frowned in anger, he was terrifying. Liam reluctantly took out a pen and scratch paper. Ethan rested his chin on his arm, listening from the edge of Liam's desk. With every breath, warm air washed over the back of Liam's hand, hot like a steamy bathroom after a shower. "You see this line here?" He stumbled at first, but then he found his rhythm. His logic was surprisingly clear, thanks to Ethan's thorough explanation that morning. He didn't know if the girl next to them understood, but Liam himself was getting into it. When he derived the final answer and wrote it on the paper, he felt a flicker of excitement, something he had never experienced with schoolwork before. Ethan looked at the girl and said slowly, "Got it now?" Liam was still caught up in his own small triumph. He turned his head and met Ethan's teasing gaze. His face instantly flushed, and he quickly turned back around. A gust of wind blew 2 cherry blossom petals in through the window. They landed on his desk. Liam gently blew them to the floor. He felt like one of those petals, light and floating, carried by the spring breeze, with no idea where he might land. After school, Liam didn't dare go to the library. He went straight to the cake shop. As he left the school gates, he glanced back and saw Ethan riding past on his bike, the wind filling his white school shirt. He went by so fast, Liam couldn't even tell if he had looked his way. He felt a pang of disappointment, then laughed at himself. Ethan wasn't some kind of stalker. If he didn't want to hang out with him, there was a long line of people who did. Only sweets could rescue him from a low mood. He was early today, so the cake shop wasn't crowded. The glass case was filled with colorful desserts that were a joy just to look at. The red velvet cake with the cherry was there. The cherry sat nestled in a mound of frosting, its long stem trembling. Liam stared at the stem, rubbing his finger against the cool glass. In the end, he pointed to the fruit Napoleon next to it. A server came to open the case and handed him the cherry red velvet cake. Liam started, "No, I wanted..." He followed the hand holding the cake up and saw it was Ethan, wearing the shop's black apron. He was handing the cake to him. Liam didn't take it, murmuring his protest that he wanted the one next to it, the Napoleon. Ethan didn't retract his hand. He just tilted his chin up and smiled. "My treat." Liam felt dizzy. He completely forgot about the Napoleon and took the red velvet cake to a table by the window. As was his habit, he picked up the cherry he was saving for last and placed it on the edge of the white plate. He scooped up a spoonful of frosting and brought it to his lips, then froze. Ethan was at the counter behind him, making coffee. His back was to him, his white shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows. The black ties of the apron cinched his waist, knotted in the back. The stark lines made his shoulders look broad and his waist narrow. There were rumors at school that Ethan's family wasn't well off, but Liam never imagined he would have a part-time job. Before Ethan could turn around, Liam quickly looked away and put the frosting in his mouth. Took him twice as long as usual to eat. A third of the cake remained, and the cherry sat untouched on the plate. Outside, the sky was beginning to darken. The setting sun hung in the branches, its golden light slanting through the glass. Liam ate intermittently, his face blank, but his eyes kept drifting back to Ethan. The frosting, once firm, had softened in the warmth outside the display case and from the prodding of Liam's spoon. It was now a gooey mess on the plate, clinging to the cherry. Ethan didn't look at him or speak to him again. But just being in the same room was enough for Liam to entertain himself with his fantasies. His spoon nudged the cherry, and it did a little somersault. Finally, the after-school crowd thinned out, leaving Liam as the only customer. A hand picked up the cherry from his plate by its stem. It was Ethan again. "You're not going to eat this." Liam hastily put down his spoon, which clattered loudly against the plate. Ethan dangled the cherry in front of him, then lowered his voice. "People with nimble tongues can tie a knot in a cherry stem." Liam felt a flash of annoyance and muttered with his head down that he'd already said that. Just as the words left his mouth, Ethan popped the long-awaited cherry into his own. The pit, with a bit of fruit still clinging to it, was spit out onto a napkin, staining the white paper a watery red. The stem was gone. Liam didn't dare look up. He kept his head bowed, staring at the cherry pit, his hand unconsciously scratching his thigh. "Watch!" Ethan's voice was coaxing. Liam finally gave in and looked up. Ethan was resting his chin on his hand, a hint of a canine tooth showing as he bit down on the cherry stem. There was no knot. Liam, mortified, stood up and called out to another server, loudly stating that he wanted to pay. Ethan laughed, a bright, clear sound, his eyes crinkling into slits. He reached out and pulled Liam's raised hand down. "I told you it's my treat." Liam's knees went weak, and he sank heavily back into his chair. Ethan took the cherry stem from his mouth and placed it on the table. He might have still been smiling, or maybe he wasn't. He just rested his chin on his hand and watched Liam's predicament. A curious light in his eyes, like sunlight on a spring pond, shimmering, just like always. Liam wouldn't know because he didn't dare look up. His heart was pounding in his ears. His whole body felt like it was on fire. His thoughts were scattered, his head spinning, as if he had fallen from a great height only to be caught by a cloud made of buttercream. "Ethan, could you come here a second?" Another employee called him over. He pulled back his chair and left, his voice disappearing as he presumably went into the kitchen. Liam took a deep breath, looked up, and scanned the empty dessert shop. There was no sign of Ethan. He didn't know if he felt relieved or disappointed. He stood up to leave. On impulse, he snatched the thin, curved cherry stem from the table and clenched it tightly in his fist. He fled like a thief, his fist held tight the whole way home. On a night with a lingering spring chill, a thin layer of sweat broke out all over his body, especially in the palm holding the stem. He couldn't stop imagining that thin stem in Ethan's mouth, the tickle of his teeth biting down, the warmth and wetness of his tongue pressing against it. He felt as if he had become that cherry stem, held trembling between Ethan's teeth. Liam stopped abruptly. The daylight was almost gone. He leaned against a tall cherry tree, took nearly 10 deep breaths, and then quickened his pace home. The house was dark and empty when Liam arrived. He turned on the entryway light, swapped his shoes, then turned it off again, making his way to his room in the darkness. Even though no one was home, even though he could have turned on every light without anyone saying a word, he felt exposed. Only in his room did he feel a sense of relief. He switched on his desk lamp, smoothed out a tissue on the desk, and placed the cherry stem he had been clutching in the very center. He stared at it for a moment. The dark stem on the white tissue looked like a crack, just as Ethan had torn a crack in his otherwise featureless, pale life. As he sat at his desk trying to do his homework, his gaze kept drifting to the unremarkable cherry stem. He began to suspect that the math teacher's decision to move Ethan next to him might end up lowering his grades after all. All the pictures and words in his textbooks combined were not as rich with meaning as that single stem lying silently on the tissue. Liam couldn't control himself. He reached out and picked up the stem between his thumb and forefinger. The supple stem bent into a slight arc. As he looked at it, the cool spring night suddenly felt hot. It was like the air before a typhoon, thick with moisture, muggy and oppressive. Even the breeze felt heavy. Liam didn't know if the weather had suddenly changed or if his synesthesia was acting up again. He slowly raised his hand. The cherry stem lightly touched his lips. He flinched as if burned, then resolutely parted his lips and took it in, holding the entire thing in his mouth. People with nimble tongues can tie a knot in a cherry stem. Ethan's words thundered in his ear, but his own tongue was clumsy. The thin stem rolled around on its surface, occasionally poking the roof of his mouth. He was producing a lot of saliva soaking the stem, but he couldn't tie a knot no matter how he tried. He grew so anxious that small beads of sweat formed on his temples. It was just something Ethan had said offhandedly, maybe not even true, but he was determined to do it. Liam closed his eyes, letting the small stem run wild in his mouth. His toes curled tightly on the smooth floor, his legs pressed together. A steamy heat seemed to rise from every pore. Outside, he heard the front door open and close, followed by voices. His family was home. Liam was jolted as if from a dream. The cherry stem remained unknotted. He placed it back on the tissue. The dark stem glistened with his saliva. And maybe Ethan's too. That thought sent another wave of pleasure through him. He slumped in his chair. After a long moment, he stood up, red-faced, and slipped into the bathroom to take another shower. The next day, Liam woke up late. He had been plagued by strange dreams all night. He rushed to get ready. Before leaving his room, he wrapped the cherry stem in the tissue and tucked it into his pocket. He ran all the way, and despite his late start, he arrived at school earlier than usual. The classroom was mostly empty. Ethan's seat was vacant. Liam glanced around several times, then carefully placed the cherry stem squarely in the middle of Ethan's desk. He felt like a child leaving a scary toy in a crush's desk just to get her attention. Liam busied himself, organizing his already organized desk, taking all his books out, rearranging them and putting them back in. He repeated this 3 times before Ethan finally arrived. Ethan walked into the classroom, greeting classmates along the way. He pulled out his chair and sat down. Liam was extremely tense, his hands still mindlessly stacking books. All his senses were focused on Ethan. He noticed Ethan pause for a moment. Then, just as Liam was waiting expectantly for his next move, someone else came over to rush Ethan for his homework. Ethan casually swept the cherry stem into his palm and took out his assignment. Liam was both thrilled and disappointed. Ethan had reacted, but it was so subtle, as if it were all within his expectations. The surface of the water had rippled for a second, then immediately returned to calm. All morning, the cherry stem in Ethan's pocket felt like a ticking time bomb. Liam was on edge. He sensed Ethan looking at him from time to time, but whenever he mustered the courage to look back, he couldn't catch his gaze. He felt like a cat held by the scruff of its neck all day. The hand belonged to Ethan, but Ethan did nothing, just held him there. His presence undeniable, making Liam's every move cautious. The cherry stem seemed to have vanished. Nothing was going according to his plan. Near the end of the day, the teacher announced a class camping trip for the weekend. It wasn't going to be a casual affair in a rented cabin, but a real camping trip with tents. For high schoolers, it was still just a more serious version of playing house, but it was exciting enough. The class president went down the rows asking each person. It was voluntary, but most people signed up. Ethan, being the social hub, was naturally going. Liam, the class president, asked perfunctorily, "What about you?" Normally, Liam would have said no. He hated even being asked. But this time was different. He quickly glanced at Ethan, who was laughing and talking with a group of friends, and said quietly, "I'll go." The president had only asked as a formality and was surprised by his answer. He turned back and asked again what he had said. Liam just stared at his desk. The wood grain looked like surging waves. For a moment, it felt like the entire class had gone silent, waiting for him to repeat his answer. I said. Liam spoke clearly, "I'm in." The president looked him up and down, scribbled his name on the list, and then asked about the tents. They were two-person tents. Who would he be sharing with? Liam hadn't considered that. He had an ideal answer in his head. Half the cells in his body were screaming Ethan, while the other half were ashamed of his own excitement. In the end, his lips moved, but no words came out. The president, waiting with his pen poised, lost patience and said they would just assign partners later. Liam deflated. From the corner of his eye, he saw Ethan still chatting with his friends about the camping trip. When the final bell rang, for the first time, Liam found the sound grating. Before the bell had even finished, Ethan had packed up, pushed in his chair, and left the classroom. Liam followed him from a distance to the school's bike rack. He watched Ethan unlock his bike. Ethan pushed the bike out, turned, and saw Liam standing hesitantly under a nearby tree. Liam didn't speak. Neither did Ethan. They just stood there in silence. The cherry blossoms were in half bloom, pink clouds and mist interspersed with green. The silence became a tangible thing, wrapping itself tightly around Liam. He knew he should say something, but what? Ethan waited patiently, his gaze calm, his blink slow, just like that day when he had waited at his desk for Liam to ask him about the math problem. As if inspired, Liam clenched his fists and said, You teach me." Ethan suddenly smiled. He pushed his bike toward Liam, stopping at a polite distance. "Teach you what? Teach him what?" What was he trying to get from Ethan? The nights of lonely, bittersweet self-pleasure? The hesitation of 1,000 unsaid words? Or that unremarkable cherry stem that had passed from one mouth to another? He had already gotten so much from Ethan. What more did he want? Liam swallowed hard and said with difficulty, "To tie a knot in the cherry stem." Ethan leaned one hand on his bike and reached into his pants pocket with the other. He pulled out the cherry stem he had kept all day, holding it between his thumb and forefinger. "This?" he asked. Liam's wildly beating heart felt like a great bell. The extreme shame and excitement became a physical force, striking that bell over and over, producing a deafening hum that filled his head. The bell inside him swayed, held by the last thread of his sanity, threatening to fall at any moment. He nodded. A breeze rustled the leaves. "I'll only teach you once," Ethan said. "Can you learn?" Liam nodded again. Ethan smiled. "How can you learn if you don't watch?" Liam looked up. Ethan, standing right in front of him, filled his vision. Ethan was undeniably handsome. He was like a young, vibrant branch in early spring, but with the beginnings of strength. He smiled, tilting his chin up slightly. It was a triumphant smile, but not an unpleasant one. The cherry stem was held between his lips, a tiny lever that seemed capable of moving all the stars in the sky. "Watch," Ethan said, his voice muffled. His lips parted slightly, and the small stem disappeared. Liam's gaze was glued to his mouth. He could just make out a flash of white teeth. Occasionally, a piece of the defenseless cherry stem would emerge from between his lips and teeth, only to be quickly drawn back in by his powerful tongue. In less than a minute, Ethan opened his mouth again. His tongue was half extended. On its surface, the cherry stem was bent into an imperfect circle, its ends intertwined. Before Liam could get a clear look, Ethan took out a tissue, wrapped the knotted stem in it, and tossed it into a nearby trash can. "Did you learn?" he asked. Liam had learned how to look Ethan straight in the eye, how to relax and not dig his nails into his own palms. As for how to tie a cherry stem into a knot, he hadn't learned that. How could he possibly see what was happening inside Ethan's mouth? He could only imagine the heat and wetness, the dexterity of his tongue. The rest was a mystery. Ethan didn't give him time to react. He swung his leg over his bike and, with a few easy pedals, was gone. Liam stood there, drenched in sweat. He fought the urge to dig through the trash can and started walking home. The spring wind was moist, caressing his face. A weather forecast was playing on a TV in a nearby shop. The city was expecting a period of spring rain within the week. The whole city was suddenly plunged into a late spring rain. It was damp everywhere. It never rained hard, just a persistent drizzle that didn't last long. Sometimes a few drops would fall in the middle of the night, gone by morning, leaving only damp leaves and scattered petals as evidence. Liam hated this kind of humid weather. His senses seemed to be heightened. Sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste were all scrambled. It was a hassle. In this weather, you had to carry an umbrella. The sky was clear when he left the house that morning, so Liam had taken a chance and left his umbrella at home. Not 5 minutes later, a fine mist began to fall. The light rain didn't feel cool on his skin, just persistently clammy, like mold on a white wall. Liam didn't want to go back for his umbrella, so he started to run. The charter bus was already parked by the school gate. Liam was the first to arrive. He habitually took a seat in the back corner by the window, then immediately regretted it. He should have sat somewhere more conspicuous. But other students were already boarding, so he stayed put. The air conditioning on the bus was cold. Liam shrank into his seat, smacked his lips, and tasted sugar-free sparkling water. The bubbles fizzed in his mouth, but there was no sweetness. It was refreshing but bland. A layer of fog coated the window, streaked with rivulets from the rain. Through the blur, he saw Ethan approaching with an umbrella. He was holding it carelessly, and his hair was dotted with raindrops. He folded the umbrella and got on the bus. People greeted him, but he just made his way to the back, saying he hadn't slept well and needed to catch up on sleep on the bus. Then he sat down next to Liam. Liam jolted. The bland taste of sparkling water vanished. The bus started to move, the engine vibrating beneath his seat. He felt like he was riding a bucking horse. Ethan was wearing a hooded sweatshirt. He pulled the hood up, obscuring half his face, and seemed to fall asleep. Liam couldn't figure Ethan out. Every action seemed to have a deeper meaning, yet it could also just be a whim. Liam stared at the exposed half of Ethan's face. Suddenly, Ethan pulled his hood down. His eyes, showing no trace of sleepiness, met Liam's. He said quietly, "Hey." Liam felt like he had been pricked with a needle. He whipped his head around to face the foggy window. After a long moment, he quietly replied, "Hey." The bus ride was neither long nor short. They didn't speak again. Liam wanted to talk. He had 100 topics rehearsed in his head. But every time he turned and met Ethan's gaze, he forgot them all. The 7th time he gathered his courage to turn around, the bus stopped. The campsite was in an open meadow. In the distance, misty mountains were faintly visible. The weather wasn't great, so there weren't many people, just a few scattered tents. His ankles felt cool as he walked on the grass, wet with dew. The class president was handing out tents from a list. Those without a prearranged partner were randomly paired. Liam was assigned to a small, quiet boy with glasses. Neither of them was outgoing. Liam couldn't even remember his classmate's name. The pop-up tents were easy to set up. Liam worked with a blank expression. The thought of spending the night in a tent with a complete stranger made his skin crawl. In the distance, a large group had gathered around Ethan, their laughter loud and cheerful. Suddenly, he hated Ethan. He hated him so much. His mood mirrored the gloomy, damp weather. He put a little too much force into setting up his tent and nearly collapsed one corner. The boy with glasses shot him a dirty look, which only made Liam's mood worse. He blamed it all on Ethan. The so-called camping trip was just a group of teenagers grilling undercooked skewers and swallowing them whole. To Liam, the meat felt like stones in his throat. He forced it down, the rough texture scraping his throat raw. It sat like a lead weight in his stomach, making him nauseous. He was listless. The weather was just as dreary. The evening sun was hidden behind gray clouds, letting only a sliver of light through before it too vanished. The rain started without. People shielded their heads with their hands and retreated to their tents. Liam didn't want to be in a confined space with his unfamiliar tentmate. He pulled a waterproof tarp over his head and sat outside. He felt sticky without a shower. He let himself sink into the sensory chaos. The colors that flashed in his mind were all somber. Occasionally, a bright white would appear, the color of the sweatshirt Ethan was wearing today. He angrily wiped that white away. The rain pattered on the tarp. Liam looked out and saw no one. "You're not going inside?" Ethan came up from behind and sat next to him, casually pulling a corner of the tarp over himself. Liam was still angry with him. He said nothing, his face expressionless, his gaze fixed on a cloud on the horizon, watching it drift slowly from one place to another. "We'll have to squeeze in tonight," Ethan said nonchalantly. "My tent broke." Following his gaze, Liam saw a collapsed tent in the distance, looking particularly pathetic in the cool evening wind. The defensive wall he had painstakingly built was instantly demolished by Ethan. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. A full minute passed before he managed a feeble, "It won't fit." Ethan laughed. "You two are the skinniest guys in our class. I can't exactly go squeeze in with the girls." Every time he was with Ethan, nothing went as expected, yet everything exceeded his expectations. In the end, it was 3 of them squeezed into a 2-person tent. The quiet boy with glasses said he often had to get up in the night, so he would sleep on the outside. Liam didn't want to be next to him, so he slept on the inside, pressing himself against the tent wall, wishing he could shrink into nothing. Ethan naturally lay in the middle. Liam faced the tent wall, his back to Ethan, his eyes open. He listened to the rain tapping on the tent, and the steady breathing of someone, he didn't know who. A warm breeze tickled the back of his neck. It wasn't the wind. It was Ethan's breath. Liam went rigid, but not completely. The blood in his veins heated up, spreading an annoying warmth throughout his body. He lay motionless, his legs curled together. Where their skin touched, it was sticky with sweat. He gathered his courage and shifted slightly onto his back. It was a small movement, but it felt like climbing a mountain, leaving him breathless. Growl, The sound from his stomach was deafening in the quiet tent. Liam froze, holding his breath. The only sounds were the rain and the other boys' soft snores. No one heard. Liam let out a long, slow breath. But then his stomach growled again. He was hungry. The person lying next to him chuckled. It was Ethan. Liam was mortified. He pressed his hands on his stomach, hoping to silence it. Ethan rolled onto his side, facing him. In his peripheral vision, Liam could see Ethan's ear. The top was slightly pointed, a hint of red in the flesh, like a mischievous demon from a storybook. Hungry? Ethan asked in a whisper. His breath warmed Liam's cheek and ear. Liam shrugged, trying to scratch his itchy ear, but missed. He nodded, then realized it was too dark for Ethan to see. There was a rustling sound. Ethan was moving. Liam lay on his back, staring at the top of the tent. The slightest movement made him jump. Every word, every action from Ethan was like a spark on a fuse. Liam had a vague idea of what would happen when the fuse burned to the end, but he couldn't put it into words. A sudden warmth on his stomach made him flinch. It was Ethan's hand. Or is your stomach upset? Now, Liam felt uncomfortable all over. It was just a hand, palm and fingers flat against his abdomen, the warmth seeping through his clothes to his skin. Liam felt like he was sick. He didn't know what he felt for Ethan right now. He hated him, hated his carelessness and his effortless confidence. But at the same time, he craved him, like dry grass craves the first spring rain. Now the rain was falling. The tent was practically useless. He could feel the rain directly on his face. The rain was cool, but on his hot skin, it instantly warmed, enveloping his whole body. No, it's fine. Liam's voice was as small as a mosquito's buzz. What did you say? Ethan moved closer. Liam felt his lips brush against his ear. A light touch like a petal, there and gone. I said, what could he say? Words lost their meaning. There were 100 ways to express how he felt right now, none of them verbal. Words were pale, dry, and cold. His mind was a kaleidoscope of colors. His breath was humid. His body was feverishly hot. All of this was more powerful than language. He can't hear you. Ethan moved closer still, his hand remaining on his lower abdomen. He was practically holding Liam in his arms now. Liam squeezed his eyes shut, then opened them, wetting his dry lips with his tongue. The rain outside seemed to be getting heavier, drumming on the roof of the tent. This moment felt unreal. Liam turned his head slightly, his voice seeming to come from deep within his body. He said, "Teach me." This time, Ethan didn't laugh. Liam had been prepared for Ethan's characteristic nonchalant smile, but it didn't come. He felt a flicker of anxiety, wondering if he had said the wrong thing. He tried to think of something to say to fix it, but his mind was blank. Ethan said, "You didn't learn last time, huh?" Liam shook his head, then remembered Ethan couldn't see. But it didn't matter. Ethan propped himself up on his elbow. His silhouette in the dim tent was a series of curves, like the mountains he had seen during the day, hidden in the clouds. Then he leaned down, his face directly above Liam's. They were so close they could make out each other's features in the dark. Liam could see Ethan's eyes, the light in them shimmering, as if with a hint of a smile, or maybe not. It was so intense it made Liam tremble. But, he said, "There's no cherry stem here." There wasn't. And there was a classmate who could wake up at any moment sleeping right next to them. Liam raised his hand, his fingertips touching Ethan's jaw. It was warm, but not smooth, with a faint stubble. He traced the line up to his ear, which was hot, then to his cheek and his high-bridged nose. He followed the line of his nose to its tip, the slight dip of his philtrum, and finally, his soft lips. Ethan didn't speak. He parted his lips slightly and bit down on Liam's finger. He used a little force, shaking it as if in frustration. Liam felt a dull ache in his index finger. Not exactly painful, more of a tingling sensation. The tip of his finger touched Ethan's even softer tongue, wet and warm. A whimper escaped Liam's throat. His legs drew up, wanting to curl into a ball. Ethan's teeth loosened slightly, then his tongue curled around Liam's fingertip, just as it would a cherry stem. Liam felt as if all his senses were now compressed into that small fingertip. His entire being was enveloped by Ethan's mouth, licked and played with by Ethan's tongue. Ethan gently poked the pad of his finger with his sharp canine tooth, his voice a muffled whisper. "Now have you learned?" Liam was panting, his voice tinged with tears. He didn't mean to cry. He just didn't know why, but his rationality was crumbling. No, Ethan sighed, like a teacher with a slow student, completely helpless. He released Liam's wet finger, leaned down, and pressed his lips against his. Like a weary traveler finally tasting a sweet spring, a sigh of contentment escaped from deep in Liam's throat. They were kissing. Liam understood that this was what he wanted. The friction of lips on lips, the taste of someone else's tongue, the scent of buttercream, the sweetness of cherries. His own tongue felt like it was being tied into a knot by Ethan's. Everything else lost its meaning. Only the touch of their tongues was real, hot and wet. Every day had been just barely tolerable. This was unbearable. "I will take all the sweetness from you." Sometimes Liam felt empty, as if the wind could whistle through him. But now he was full, solid. And that fullness created an even greater emptiness. He opened his mouth wider, letting Ethan kiss him deeper. In a daze, all the rain seemed to flow backwards from the grass into the sky. All the flowers bloomed at once. It was just a kiss. Liam told himself that when it was over. But clearly, his brain and his body weren't buying it. On a cool spring night, he was hot and covered in a sticky sweat. His hair clung to his face. He stared at Ethan's face, so close to his own, his mouth half open, panting. The rain was still falling outside. The boy with glasses was still snoring. Nothing was different from 2 minutes ago. It was so normal that a wave of panic washed over Liam. His body seemed to move on its own. He lifted his head slightly, trying to reach Ethan's lips again. Their chests were pressed together, hearts pounding. He couldn't tell whose was beating faster. Ethan moved away slightly, covering Liam's mouth with his hand. "Shoo," he winked. The boy next to them rolled over, mumbling in his sleep. Liam didn't dare move. The hot air he exhaled pooled in Ethan's palm. His mind raced. What if they were seen? What did they look like right now? And Ethan? What was Ethan thinking? His heart was beating even faster now than when they were kissing. Ethan's hand had a unique scent, a bit of fresh lemon, a bit of damp snow, and a faint hint of sweat. The tent returned to silence. Ethan sat up and carefully opened the tent flap, preparing to go out. Liam sat up too, confused. The moonlight shone through the opening. Ethan looked back at him, didn't say a word, and Liam understood. He got up too, following Ethan out, tiptoeing. Unconsciously, the clouds had parted and the rain had stopped. As far as he could see, there was no one, just quiet tents. As the clouds dissipated, the stars reappeared. When the wind blew, the grass bowed, and the sound of insects filled the air. As Liam emerged from the tent, Ethan naturally took his hand, pulling him up and leading him forward. He stumbled, his foot catching on a small mound of dirt. He had never been so clumsy. Ethan slowed down, leading him to the spot where they had grilled skewers earlier. He let go of Liam's hand, lifted the haphazardly placed tarp, and skillfully added some charcoal, relighting the grill. He pulled out some leftover skewers from dinner. Liam sat there stunned until Ethan handed him a freshly grilled skewer with a squeeze of lemon juice. "For me?" he asked. Ethan smiled. "Aren't you hungry?" Liam's face grew hot. He mumbled an affirmative and took the skewer. With the first bite, he realized he was starving. But his mind wasn't on the food at all. Ethan was good at grilling. The meat wasn't burnt, and the lemon juice cut through the grease. The fresh lemon reminded him of the scent on Ethan's hand earlier. It felt as if his mouth was touching not food, but Ethan's hand. Ethan's hands were nice, with wide palms and long fingers, the pads calloused. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked from beside him. Liam snapped back to reality, shook his head guiltily, and silently finished the skewer. Just like in the classroom, Ethan rested his chin on his hand and watched him. Out of the blue, he said, "Why are you always so shy?" "I'm not." Ethan suddenly reached out. A warmth on the side of Liam's mouth. Ethan's finger wiped away a bit of barbecue sauce. While Liam was still processing, Ethan put the tip of his finger into his own mouth and licked it clean. "Tastes a little bland," he said. Liam's throat was dry. The sensation of their earlier kiss lingered in his mouth. The heat that had just subsided rushed back to his face. "See, you're blushing again." A sudden annoyance with Ethan rose in him. He took a deep breath, looked up at Ethan's smiling eyes, and asked, "Why are you always laughing at me?" Ethan paused, then choked slightly, coughing into his fist. He scratched his head. "I'm not laughing at you." Liam looked down again, pulling at the grass by his feet. His fingers were stained with green juice, which felt cool in the breeze. "I used to see you in the library all the time," Ethan said. "Even though we were in the same class, you didn't seem to know who I was." "Really?" Liam thought of all the times he had been alone in the library, his eyes on the page but his mind elsewhere. Sometimes distracted by a bird flying past the window, or a dry leaf brought in by a passerby. Every page of every book transformed into colors and tastes in his head. And all that time, Ethan had been watching him. Just like now. Ethan stood up and held out his hand to Liam. "Let's go. Back to sleep." Liam looked at the outstretched hand, broad and strong, like a small boat, a harbor, like the strongest branch in spring, waiting for the first flower to bloom. Seeing him hesitate, Ethan curled his open hand into a loose fist, then opened it again, extending it further. "Come on." In that moment, Liam knew that the journey they were about to take was not just the 1-minute walk back to the tent. Liam wanted to ask so many questions. They were a tangled mess in his mind, and he didn't know where to start. He looked up and saw Ethan still holding out his hand, the tips of his ears slightly red. It was the first time he had seen Ethan look so unsure, not graceful and nonchalant, but hesitant and anxious. Liam said, "I have a condition." Ethan froze, then squatted down in front of him. Liam spoke quickly, as if he would lose the courage to speak if he didn't get it all out at once. "Synesthesia. I can hear images, see sounds. All my senses are mixed up. That's why I zone out so much. I can't concentrate." He said it all in one breath, then looked up, carefully studying Ethan's expression. Ethan didn't speak. He just reached out, cupped the back of Liam's neck, and leaned in to touch his lips with his own. "What does that feel like?" he asked. What did it feel like? It was too fast. He hadn't had time to feel anything. Ethan touched his lips again, this time extending his tongue to trace the seam of his lips. How about now? Liam's heart sped up. 1,000 sensations flashed through his mind. Sounds, images, tastes. After they all rushed by, one sound remained, a soft, careful pop. He murmured, "It's a sound." Ethan stood up and held out his hand again. "Let's go." This time, Liam took it. He let Ethan pull him to his feet, then stood on his tiptoes and pressed his own lips to Ethan's. It was clearer now. It really was a gentle pop. Ethan wrapped an arm around his waist and kissed him, as if for the first time. Now he could hear it clearly. It was the sound of the first flower of spring blooming.